November 1944. Somewhere outside Aachen, a German army nurse named Elise Bauer stood in a ruined dressing station with blood on her sleeves and one thought in her head. Do not let them take you alive. The radio had told her what Americans did to prisoners. The officers had told her worse. And by then, fear had repeated the same story so many times, it sounded like truth. So when the artillery stopped and the olive-drab trucks came rolling through the smoke, Elise slipped one hand into her coat pocket. There was no pistol there, just a cracked ampule of morphine she had saved for the worst moment. Then the door canvas lifted. An American medic stepped inside. Elise waited for shouting, for a rifle butt, for the first proof that every warning had been true. Instead, the medic looked at her boots. They were split open, soaked through, and gray with frozen mud. He turned and called for someone outside. A minute later, an American nurse came in carrying a folded blanket and a pair of dry wool socks. Not a speech, not a victory laugh, just socks. The nurse pointed gently to Elise's feet and said, in careful German, "You need these first." That was the first thing America gave her. Not freedom, not forgiveness, not even an explanation. Dry socks. And for Elise Bauer, that small piece of wool would become more dangerous than any American weapon, because bullets could kill a body, but mercy could destroy a lie. Elise had been awake for almost 40 hours when the Americans entered the aid station. She was 28, from Bremen, the daughter of a dock clerk and a schoolteacher, trained as a nurse before the war swallowed every hospital in Germany. By late 1944, she no longer felt like a nurse. She felt like a rag used to wipe blood from a table. The cellar where her unit worked had been hit twice. The windows were gone, the lanterns smoked. Men lay on doors torn from houses because there were not enough stretchers. When the shelling stopped, nobody cheered. The silence felt like a hand closing around the room. The wounded looked at Elise as if she could tell them what came next. She could not. Outside, American voices moved through the fog. Boots splashed in mud. Metal clicked. A man groaned when someone lifted him. Elise stiffened, waiting for violence. But the Americans worked fast and quietly. They tagged the wounded. They checked pulses. They shouted for morphine, bandages, blankets. One young private saw the Red Cross patch on Elise's sleeve and lowered his rifle. Another pointed toward the doorway, not with anger but with instruction. This way. She did not move. Her body had learned obedience from Germans. It had not learned trust from enemies. Then the American nurse arrived. Her name, stitched above her breast pocket, was Holloway. She looked older than Elise, maybe 35, with tired eyes and sleeves rolled to the elbow. She did not look triumphant. She looked busy. Ruth Holloway knelt, opened Elise's ruined boot with a small knife, and hissed through her teeth. "Feet are bad," she said in broken German. "Cold injury. You walk?" Elise stared at her. In the world she understood, enemies did not kneel in front of enemies. They stood over them. Holloway wrapped Elise's feet, gave her the socks, then put a tin cup in her hands. Coffee. Weak, bitter, and hotter than anything Elise had tasted in weeks. Her fingers shook so badly the cup rattled. The nurse steadied it. "Drink," she said. "War can wait 1 minute." That sentence frightened Elise more than a threat, because it made no sense. The Americans searched the aid station at dusk. They found bandages, medical rolls, 2 pistols hidden beneath a crate, and Elise's mother's letters tied with thread. A military policeman held up the letters. Elise stopped breathing. Then he placed them back in her bag, not because he cared about her mother, because there was a rule. That night, they moved the captured medical staff into a barn behind the lines. The floor was straw. The walls smelled of old hay and rain. There were guards at the doors, but the rifles pointed downward. The prisoners whispered in the dark. "They are pretending. They will separate us tomorrow. They feed you first, so you stop fighting." Elise believed all of it. Fear is stubborn when it has been trained well. A medic came through with a clipboard, asking names, ages, wounds. When he reached Elise, she gave him only what she had to. "Elise Bauer, 28, nurse." "Injured?" "No." He glanced at her feet. Ruth Holloway, standing behind him, said something in English. The medic wrote it down. Elise did not understand the words. She understood the result. She was placed on a bench near the stove, with her feet raised on a folded canvas sack. The dry socks were already warming against her skin. She hated them for that. She hated the comfort. She hated that her first feeling in captivity was relief. By the next morning, convoys were moving west. The Americans were taking thousands of prisoners in waves. Infantrymen, clerks, cooks, drivers, stretcher-bearers, boys with frost-bitten hands, old men with gray stubble, and a handful of women pulled from hospitals, offices, and signal posts. Elise rode in the back of a truck with 3 other German women and 2 wounded orderlies. The road shook under them. Rain ran down the canvas. Someone vomited into his coat. One girl, no older than 19, whispered that they were being sent to a mine. Another said America did not exist the way maps showed it. It was only a place in propaganda posters. Elise said nothing. She watched the American guard sitting at the tailgate. He looked tired, too tired to be cruel. When the truck stopped at a rail yard, prisoners were counted, searched again, and given bread. Real bread. Not sawdust bread. Not black ration bread. Bread with a pale inside that tore softly between the fingers. A captured sergeant refused to eat it. "Poison," he muttered. 5 minutes later, hunger defeated ideology. He ate. The train carried them through France toward the coast. Guards walked the aisle. Prisoners stared at the floor. At night, the wheels hammered the same question into Elise's head. Why are they not hurting us? At the port, an officer explained through a translator that they were being sent across the Atlantic as prisoners of war. Under the Geneva Convention of 1929, he said, prisoners were entitled to food, shelter, medical treatment, mail, and humane discipline. Elise heard the words. She did not believe them. Rights were things other people claimed before stronger people took them away. But the Americans wrote the rules down. They repeated them. They posted them. They acted as if paper could restrain power. That was the second strange thing America showed her. The first was kindness. The second was that kindness had paperwork. The ship left Europe under a flat gray sky. For 12 days the Atlantic rose and fell beneath them. Men grew seasick. Women clutched blankets around their shoulders. The air smelled of salt, oil, wet wool, and fear. On the third morning, Ruth Holloway found Elise on deck, gripping the rail. The nurse pointed at her feet. "Socks still dry?" Elise looked away. "Yes." "Good." That was all. No lesson, no sermon, just the practical satisfaction of a nurse who had kept a patient's feet from rotting. Elise almost laughed. She almost cried. Instead, she said the first honest sentence she had spoken to an American. "I was told you would hate us." Holloway nodded. "I do hate what your army did." Then she looked at Elise's bandaged feet. "But those are still feet." The ship reached the United States on a cold morning in late November. The harbor looked impossibly clean to Elise. Warehouses stood upright. Cranes moved like patient animals. Men on the dock shouted without panic. No sirens, no rubble, no smoke columns rising behind church towers. The prisoners came down the gangway in lines. At the processing center, they were deloused, examined, tagged, and documented. A number was tied to Elise's coat. A doctor inspected her feet. A woman in uniform asked when she had last eaten. The room smelled of soap and coffee. That smell became one of her memories of America. Soap, coffee, and rules. 3 days later, a train carried them west. Elise watched the country change through a barred window. Cities, fields, rivers, flat land, then desert. The farther they traveled, the stranger it became. America had space, the way Europe had ruins. At a stop in Kansas, a child saw the PW letters painted on the train car and waved. One German prisoner waved back before remembering he was supposed to hate her. By the time they reached Arizona, the air had turned dry and sharp. Mountains sat blue in the distance. Dust moved in sheets across the platform. The sun made the barbed wire flash like water. A sign near the gate read, "Camp Florence Prisoner of War Compound." Elise had expected a dungeon. What she saw was a camp. Wooden barracks, a clinic, a mess hall, guard towers, laundry lines, a chapel hut, a notice board with rules pinned in English and German. It was still a prison. The wire was real. The rifles were real. The roll calls were real. But the first shock was not the wire, it was the smell. Beans cooking, fresh bread cooling, sun-warmed wood. The women were placed in a small hospital annex, separated from the larger men's compound. There were not many of them. A few nurses, 2 telephone operators, a records clerk, a cook from a field hospital who had lied about her age. They were issued work dresses marked PW, towels, soap, blankets, and a printed card explaining camp rules. Elise read the German translation 3 times. No prisoner shall be beaten. Medical care shall be provided. Religious practice permitted. Male privileges subject to inspection. Work compensated in camp credit. Discipline by restriction, not bodily punishment. She kept waiting for the hidden sentence, the one that said, "Unless we feel otherwise." It never appeared. That first night, she lay on the narrow bunk and listened to boots crunch outside on gravel. Every sound made her muscles tighten. She whispered to herself, "Tomorrow they will show their real faces." Morning came. Their real faces served oatmeal. A guard named Corporal Hayes stood near the mess line, watching the prisoners take trays. He was broad-shouldered, sunburned, and quiet. When one German woman dropped her cup, he picked it up, rinsed it, and handed it back. No insult, no slap, no performance of power. Only a cup returned because the line had to keep moving. Elise began to understand that American order was not soft. It was relentless. Every day had a shape. Roll call at 6. Breakfast. Work assignments. Medical checks. Letters twice a week when mail came. Lights out at 10. Some prisoners worked in laundry. Some repaired uniforms. Some tended the vegetable rows behind the kitchen. Those healthy enough could volunteer for additional work and receive camp coupons for the canteen. The first time Elise was given coupons, she stared at them in her palm. "You earned them," the translator said. The translator was named Margaret Weiss, an American-born daughter of German immigrants from Milwaukee. Her German was old-fashioned, full of family phrases. Elise asked, "Why pay prisoners?" Margaret shrugged. "Because work has rules, too." There it was again. Rules. Not affection, not pity, not weakness. Rules that forced decency to survive bad moods. The medical clinic became the place where Elise's certainty finally began to crack. Her feet had improved on the ship, but the cold injury had left 2 toes swollen and dark. Ruth Holloway had been assigned to the camp clinic for several weeks, and when she saw Elise limp into the room, she frowned like a disappointed schoolteacher. "You walked too much." "I was told to work." "You were told to heal first." Elise almost smiled. In Germany, healing had become a privilege rationed by rank. At Camp Florence, a prisoner's foot earned more attention than Elise had given herself. The doctor cleaned the damaged skin, applied sulfa powder, and ordered rest from laundry duty. He spoke through Margaret. "If infection spreads, we may need penicillin. But I think we caught it." Penicillin. Elise knew the word the way hungry people know the smell of bread. She had seen men die because Germany did not have enough of it. Now an American doctor was discussing it for an enemy prisoner's toes. She looked at Holloway. "Why?" The nurse did not answer quickly. She wrapped Elise's foot with clean gauze, then pulled a fresh pair of wool socks from a drawer. "Because if we stop being decent when it is difficult," she said, "then it was never decency." Elise remembered that line for the rest of her life, not because it was beautiful, because it was practical, like a bandage, like a ration card, like a posted rule. The camp did not become paradise. It was still captivity. Some guards disliked them and made no effort to hide it. Some prisoners clung to the old slogans. The desert heat was brutal by day and cold by night. Letters were censored. Freedom existed only beyond the wire. But the wire did not come with starvation. The fences did not come with humiliation. Punishments were recorded. Complaints could be filed. The Red Cross inspected. The Geneva Convention was not a rumor pinned to a wall. It had teeth. By the end of the war, more than 400,000 German prisoners would pass through camps across the United States. Many worked in fields, factories, forests, and depots. Many were better fed than families in bombed German cities. Many discovered the same impossible contradiction Elise discovered in Arizona. The enemy had rules for them. Their own leaders had mostly had orders. As winter moved into spring, Elise began helping in the clinic. At first, it was only folding sheets, then washing instruments, then translating symptoms when Margaret was busy. The American staff noticed she knew what she was doing. Holloway handed her gauze one morning and said, "Nurse Bauer, make yourself useful." The title hit Elise in the chest. Nurse, not prisoner. Not Nazi, not enemy woman. Nurse. She worked beside Americans in silence, passing bandages to the people who had captured her. That should have felt like defeat. Instead, it felt like remembering who she had been, before the war turned every person into a category. One afternoon, two American guards argued outside the clinic door. One said, "I don't know why we baby them. My cousin got killed in France." The other answered, "Mine too, still says Geneva on the wall." Elise stood frozen with a tray of clean dressings in her hands. That was the American mystery in one sentence. Pain did not cancel the rule. Hatred did not erase the obligation. She wrote it that night in a small notebook she had bought with canteen coupons. They are not kind because they forgot we are enemies. They are kind because they refuse to forget what they are. That thought frightened her, because if it was true, then the Reich had not only lied about America, it had lied about strength. Spring brought letters. For months Elise had heard nothing from Bremen. Then, one gray morning, her name was called at mail distribution. The envelope was thin, handled by too many offices, stamped and restamped until the paper looked bruised. Inside was one page from her mother. "The apartment is gone. Your father died in the February raid. No news from Emile. Food is worse, but I am alive. Do not be ashamed to live." Elise read the last line again. Do not be ashamed to live. But shame came anyway. It filled her mouth so completely she could not swallow breakfast. Around her, other women opened their own letters and went pale. A mother digging through rubble, a sister missing in Dresden, a child with pneumonia and no milk, a house burned, a husband dead, a brother not reported by any unit. The barracks changed overnight. Laughter stopped. The canteen stayed empty. Women who had once complained about oatmeal now pushed full bowls away. One whispered, "My mother boils grass, and I am given eggs." Another said, "Maybe captivity is the reward for losing early." No guard knew what to do with that kind of grief. Rules could stop a beating. They could not make survival feel deserved. That night, Elise took off the wool socks Holloway had given her. They had been darned twice by then. The heels were thin. The gray wool had shaped itself around her feet. She carried them behind the barracks, intending to throw them into the trash barrel. Ruth Holloway found her there. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Then Holloway asked, "Are your feet infected again?" Elise shook her head. "My mother is hungry." The nurse understood enough. Elise held up the socks. "I should not have these." Holloway stepped closer but did not take them. "Your mother being cold will not make you warmer if you throw those away." "That is not the point." "No," Holloway said. "The point is, you think suffering is the only honest thing left." Elise hated her for saying it, because it was true. Holloway looked toward the wire, where the desert sky was turning purple. "Listen to me. The war has already taken more than it deserved. Do not hand it your feet, too. Do not hand it your feet, too." Elise laughed once, sharply, then began to cry. Not quietly, not politely. She cried the way a person cries when the wall inside finally gives way. The nurse stood beside her until it passed. She did not hug Elise. She did not comfort her like a friend. She simply stayed. And somehow that restraint made it more merciful. After the letters, everything in camp meant something different. Food tasted like guilt. Warm blankets felt borrowed. The American flag above the compound looked less like the banner of an enemy and more like a question she had no answer for. In May, news of Germany's surrender reached Camp Florence. The announcement was read in English, then German. Some prisoners cried, some cursed, some stared at the ground. No one celebrated loudly. Corporal Hayes removed his cap during the reading. Ruth Holloway folded her hands. Margaret Weiss translated the words with a voice that nearly broke. The war in Europe was over. But peace did not enter the camp like music. It entered like dust, quietly, everywhere, impossible to keep out. In the weeks after surrender, the old certainties collapsed faster than the barracks routines. News came of camps liberated in Europe. News of crimes many prisoners denied, then doubted, then could no longer deny. Some women insisted it was Allied propaganda. Others listened in silence. Elise did not know how to hold the truth. She knew what her country had suffered. Now she was learning what her country had done. That was the darkest part of mercy. Cruelty would have made hatred easy. Kindness made responsibility impossible to avoid. A prison with beatings would have confirmed every lie she had been told. A prison with rules left her alone with the truth. She began volunteering more hours in the clinic. She translated for frightened boys from the main compound. She changed dressings for a man who had lost 2 fingers in a farm accident. She helped Margaret write letters for prisoners who could not spell well enough to send their grief home. Sometimes she forgot, for half an hour at a time, which side of the war she belonged to. Then she would see PW stamped on her sleeve, and remember. One evening, as a dust storm pressed against the windows, Margaret asked her, "What will you do when you go back?" Elise answered too quickly, "Go home." "Is that all? What else is there?" Margaret looked at the clinic shelves, bandages, records, bottles labeled in English, everything counted and arranged. "You have seen something here," she said, "that makes home harder." Elise looked down at her socks. They had become ridiculous by then, ordinary, worn, not worthy of a symbol. But every time she touched them, she remembered the first day, the kneeling nurse, the coffee, the unbearable fact that an enemy had seen a human being before seeing a flag. "I don't know how to explain this to Germans," Elise said. Margaret nodded. "Then do not explain it first. Use it." That became the third lesson of America. Mercy was not a feeling you described. It was a system you practiced. Repatriation began slowly. Some prisoners were sent to Britain or France for labor before returning home. Others waited months. Elise left Camp Florence in early 1946 with a small bag, a worn notebook, her mother's letters, and the gray wool socks folded beneath her uniform. At the gate, Corporal Hayes checked her name off a list. "Elise Bauer." "Yes." He hesitated, then offered his hand. She stared at it. In Germany, defeat had taught her to expect contempt. In America, captivity had taught her to distrust simple gestures because they were never simple. Finally, she shook it. Hayes said, "Hope your mother made it." Elise nodded. "So do I." Ruth Holloway was not there that morning. She had been transferred east 2 weeks earlier, but she had left a note with Margaret. It contained only one line: "Keep your feet under you." Elise folded it into her notebook. The journey back across the Atlantic felt longer than the first. On the ship, prisoners spoke of ruins, hunger, occupation zones, missing families, revenge, shame. Nobody knew what Germany was anymore. A country, a crime scene, a home, a warning. When Elise reached Bremen, she did not recognize the city. The docks were twisted. Warehouses stood roofless. Streets she had walked as a girl ended in piles of brick. The air smelled of coal smoke, damp plaster, and unburied things. She found her mother in a cellar shared by 3 families. Her mother was thinner than memory. Her hair had gone white at the temples. When she saw Elise, she touched her daughter's face and whispered, "You are warm." Not safe, not alive, warm. Elise took off her coat and wrapped it around her mother. For several days she could not speak about America. Neighbors asked questions with knives hidden in them. "Were you treated well? Did they make you work? Is it true prisoners got meat?" One man laughed bitterly and said, "So the Americans feed their enemies better than we feed our children." Elise had no answer that would not sound like betrayal. Yes, they had fed her. Yes, they had treated her feet. Yes, they had paid her for work. Yes, they had punished without beating. Yes, a nurse had saved a pair of socks for a woman whose army had been part of all this ruin. How could she say that without making it sound clean? Kindness did not erase the bombs. Mercy did not unburn Bremen. But neither could ruin erase what she had seen. Within weeks, Elise found work at an Allied relief station because she could translate. The building had once been a school. Now its classrooms held sacks of flour, powdered milk, medical boxes, lists of names, and people who had waited too long in lines. An American captain tried to organize food distribution while hungry civilians pressed against the doors. The crowd surged. A child screamed. An old woman fell. For 1 second, panic took the room. Then Elise climbed onto a crate and shouted in German, "Everyone will be counted. Everyone will stay in line. Nobody gets more because they push. Nobody gets nothing because they are weak." The room quieted, not because she sounded kind, because she sounded certain. She had learned that voice behind wire, rules first, dignity inside them. The captain looked at her afterward. "Where did you learn to handle a line like that?" Elise thought of Camp Florence, of roll call, of canteen coupons, of Geneva printed on a card, of a nurse who would not let pain excuse cruelty. "In prison," she said. The captain did not know what to say, so he handed her another list. For the next 2 years, Elise worked in relief offices, hospitals, and registration rooms. She translated for mothers looking for sons, for doctors treating children, for American officers trying to rebuild systems in a country where systems had been used to destroy people. She saw arrogance from victors. She saw bitterness from Germans. She saw hunger make honest people dangerous. But she also saw order save lives. A line for milk, a record for medicine, a rule that applied to the loud man and the silent widow alike. The same discipline that had kept prisoners human behind wire now helped civilians survive outside it. That was when Elise understood the size of the lesson. The Americans had not been merciful because they were innocent. No nation at war was innocent in the simple way children imagine. They were merciful because they had chosen a form of power that had to answer to something beyond itself. A law, a witness, a record, a conscience that could be inspected. Years passed. Germany changed its clothes before it changed its memories. New windows appeared in old walls. Children carried school books through streets that had once carried stretchers. Factories reopened. Men returned or did not. Women married or did not. The dead stayed dead. Elise never became famous. She became useful. She trained nurses in Bremen. She translated medical forms for occupation authorities. Later, she spoke to students about captivity, when teachers asked her to explain what defeat had felt like. The students always wanted the dramatic parts, the crossing, the wire, the guards. The moment she realized Germany had lost, Elise told them those things. Then she told them about the socks. They laughed at first. Socks sounded too small for history, so she held up the old gray pair, darned and thin, kept wrapped in paper inside her desk. These, she said, were the first American argument I could not answer. A boy once asked, "Did you forgive them?" Elise looked at him for a long time. "You are asking the wrong question," she said. "They had the victory. They had the food. They had the rifles. The harder thing is not whether I forgave them. The harder thing is that they did not use power the way I had been taught power must be used." In the 1960s, Elise returned to the United States as part of a nursing exchange. She was older then. Her hair was pinned with silver. Her English had grown strong enough that she no longer had to translate every thought before speaking. She asked to visit the old camp in Arizona. Much of it was gone. The barracks had weathered, some buildings had been moved, the desert had taken back the edges. Where barbed wire once flashed in the sun, weeds grew. A local historian showed her a box of photographs. German prisoners at work, American guards beside trucks, women in PW dresses standing outside the clinic, a nurse with rolled sleeves. Elise touched the edge of the photograph. Ruth Holloway stood there, half turned from the camera, holding a bundle of blankets. Not heroic, not posed, busy. Always busy. Elise smiled through tears. The historian asked, "Were you treated kindly here?" Elise looked out at the empty yard. The question was too small. Kindly sounded like a warm voice, a gentle hand, a good mood. What happened here had been larger and harder than kindness. It had been kindness made into procedure, mercy made into routine, dignity made inconvenient and still required. So she answered carefully, "I was treated by rules that remembered I was human." That was the truth. The wire had held her body, the rules had returned her conscience. And the dry socks? They had done the first impossible thing. They had kept her feet warm long enough for the lie to freeze to death.